Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Players Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Richmond, and on today's episode, we have Jack Berry. Now, Jack is a current online pitching coach and a baseball influencer and a content creator and just a great overall dude. He's a former Division III player at Salisbury University, and we kind of get into him playing at Salisbury, in Maryland and being in the top 25 and coaching guys online now, and just all the things. It really was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. He's a great guy. Y'all need to go check him out. He does a lot of great things, and honestly, a lot of controversial things that not many people agree on. But I mean, he was awesome with me. We had a great conversation. I really think the dude is really on a good track, and I think he's a great coach. So enjoy this conversation with Jack Berry. Oh, awesome! Welcome into the Players Podcast, Jack Berry. Jack, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude, awesome, brother. So you're in South Carolina right now, and there's a ton of snow hitting the South. Um, how did y'all do? Like, is y'all's like snow, like y'all snowed in or what?
Yeah, we got nothing. We got lucky.
Jeez.
So, yeah, we the ground is clear. It is certainly cold and gray, which was not the reason that I moved here in the first place, but I can't complain when back home in Maryland they got a foot of
Jesus.
snow on the ground. So,
Wow.
I'm doing just fine with the clear ground. I can still throw baseballs and run and jump and do all the things that
Awesome.
I like to do. And so yeah, we're doing okay. But
Okay,
but yeah,
awesome.
hopefully you're safe there in Memphis as well.
Dude, yeah, I'm trying to be. I'm going stir crazy sitting in here. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can only play my Xbox and watch TV and all this sort of stuff. But
hmm
yeah, it's been all right. So if you guys don't know Jack, Jack is what we call a influencer, in the baseball world, slash coach, who's awesome, great dude. But Jack, for the people that don't know, give them like a synopsis of where you're from, who you are, all that sort of jazz.
Sure. So I'm originally from Howard County, Maryland, Laurel. It's a really tiny town, about 20 miles north of DC, 20 miles south of Baltimore. And grew up playing ball from a young age, probably about 2, 3 years old. And then played all through high school. Got the opportunity to go play at Salisbury University. It's a Division III school in Maryland. Had a fantastic 4 years, just having fun, playing ball, studying, going to class, doing all that good stuff.
Basically, your typical D3 experience, but you guys are nasty. So we'll get into that later. But so you went to Salisbury. So I mean, not a lot of people know about Division III and how good it can be. I think that now in today's world, Division III and Division II, lower divisions, as I put air quotes around it because it's not really lower. There's just different schools. Um, man, like, so what was like your experience there, and what kind of led you to going there?
Yeah, good question. So I originally had a little case of D1-itis.
Okay.
I think a lot of guys do, and I was lucky enough, and probably also to my detriment a little bit, to be surrounded by a lot of really good players when I was in high school, and
Hmm.
see a lot of guys go and play at the Division 1 level, and played kind of like the compare and contrast game to where I was like, well, I can play with these guys, I can hang with these guys, I can compete with these guys. Why am I not getting the same opportunities? And
Yeah.
retrospectively, as you look back at a mid 20-year-old, you can definitely kind of say like, well, I could have been faster, probably could have hit the
Hmm.
ball a little bit harder, just like displayed a little bit more of a diverse skill set in order to increase the opportunities I was getting.
Yeah.
So looked at a couple different Division 1s, smaller schools, Siena in upstate
Okay.
New York.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, had
Shout,
a
shout out to 60 ERA guy who went there.
Yeah, Joey. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then William and Mary, like schools that were very nice, but also like private universities that cost a lot.
It costs a
And
lot,
I was not
man.
getting, yeah, I was not getting
Man.
like full scholarships.
Yeah.
Um, and so it got kind of down to like crunch time, like late November of my senior year, probably maybe not late November, but like November, my senior
Yeah.
year of high school. And all my friends kind of knew where they were going. All my teammates knew where they were going or what their path was going to be. And so I just started firing off emails and just like reaching out to old contacts.
Hmm.
So I reached out to Catholic University, Coach Natoli there, had a couple friends going there. I was like, maybe that's an opportunity. Reached out to Salisbury. Um, I'll say this right now. That was not my first choice,
Yeah.
but I'm damn sure glad that I ended up being able to make that a reality because they had a guy in my position graduating the year before that I was coming in. So there
Hmm.
was, opportunity to play right away. 2 hours from home, my parents could come in all my games, 10,000 students. So not too
It's
big, not too
important.
small, half hour from the beach. Like,
Ooh.
these are the things that I couldn't really see. I just had like the big D1
Yeah.
number, like, writing on the wall. And
Yeah.
so made that choice and had fun. And, you know, God put me in that position. And I'm very glad that he did. And wouldn't have had it any other way because wouldn't
Awesome,
be
dude.
wouldn't be sitting here
Awesome.
probably if that wasn't the case. So
Awesome, brother.
yeah.
So you mentioned being at high school. Did you always grow up in Maryland? Was Maryland like always home?
Yeah, so I grew up pretty much the same spot like my whole
Okay.
life. No
Okay.
no
Cool.
military brat, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Obviously like in my 20s I bounced around a little bit, but
Yeah.
besides summer ball stuff, I didn't really live out of state
Okay.
pretty much from like until I turned I guess 19. That was like my
Dang.
first time like actually living out of state. So,
Wow.
yeah, I'm a Maryland boy through and through. Got the state flag
Yeah, there
running
you
through my
go.
blood. So,
There you
yeah.
go. Are you a big fan of Old Bay? Like, do you put Old Bay on everything like everybody from Maryland stereotypically does?
It's funny. We had at this new complex I'm at right now, this apartment complex. We had an oyster roast last night, which is
Yeah.
like a southern thing, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
it
know.
is.
Southern people can correct me
It's
if I'm wrong, but
it's not a Southern thing. It's a South Carolinian thing, apparently.
okay,
I don't
okay,
do that. We do like crawfish boils, seafood
nice.
boils. Like that's kind of our thing down here in
Yeah,
Memphis, and barbecue, obviously. But like oyster roast, it's like a Carolina thing, apparently.
yeah. So that was my first exposure to one, and it
Jeez.
was a great time. I love oysters.
Yeah.
So,
There you
and I
go.
was with another Maryland guy actually that I've met here.
Wow.
His name's Dylan. If Dylan's listening, probably won't, but anyway. Um, But he was talking about Old Bay because he's like, he's kind of picky. He's a picky
Yeah.
eater, and he would just smash Old Bay on
Oh my
everything,
God.
just being a Maryland guy. And so they had some Old Bay there, and I dusted a couple of the oysters, the roast oysters with some Old Bay, and it's good. It's not like something that I'm gonna put onto everything. I
Douse
like a
your
diverse
Yeah.
seasoning cabinet. I'm got some adobo chicken I'm gonna make tonight.
There you go.
Got some garlic,
Yeah.
powder that I put on ground beef,
Ooh.
Italian
There you go.
seasoning, some
There you
taco
go.
seasoning here and there. So
So
yeah,
we
keep
so
it
we have a
diverse.
chef. So we have a chef on the pod. It's the
I
first
do like to
one.
spend some time in the kitchen. Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
So back to baseball. When you were in high school, were you always like the guy? I know you kind of mentioned it, like you were looking at some D1s, and some people that's kind of like the penultimate. Like, hey, like I'm going D1. I'm getting looked at by D1s. I'm getting, emails, text messages, calls, whatever the case may be. But in high school, were you always like the guy, or were you just like the guy that like the coach is coming to see? It's like, yeah, he's good, but like he can't play here.
So we had a really good team my junior year. We ended up winning the state championship for the 3A class,
There you go.
and a good friend of mine, Cody Morris. He's in pro ball now.
Mhm.
He was like all county pitcher of the year, Gatorade player of the year for Maryland.
Dang.
He started like the state championship game through like a 12K shutout. I forget what it
Jesus.
was, but like he touched 97 in high school. He signed on to play at South Carolina when he was a sophomore. So he was like the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody like talked about, you go to a tournament or you say
Mm.
like you play a reservoir, it's like, oh, so you play with Cody, like that
Yeah.
was always
Yeah.
the reference point. But like we had John Mearswa who played at Catholic and was like a Division III All-American, Danny
Mm.
O'Hagan, who he went to Catholic and was a catcher. I think he got like all region or all All-American one year or the
Yeah.
other, but like he was kind of like our leader. He was a year above us
Mm.
on that state championship team, so like he went out on top. Joe Kearney, Joey Janish. I mean, like we had a ton of guys go on to play at the next
A
level, and
lot
even
of.
the guys that didn't, like those guys contributed a lot. So
Mhm.
I I think it's cool that like, I wasn't the guy, and like you'd have to talk to Cody about like,
There you go.
how he kind of pictured it because like if you picture the stud that like walks through the
Hmm.
hallways and everybody kind of stops and just like,
Sees
he was
that
that
and
guy. Like to
knows
me,
he's
he's
the
just my,
guy.
yeah, he's like to me, he's just my friend.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, but I like as you get older and you start to reflect on those things, it's like you can definitely see that people treat them a little bit differently or have like
Hmm.
a different kind of like respect for that level of athlete, and rightfully
Yeah.
so. Like he's a big leaguer, so
Yeah.
you can kind of tell like there's all those stories about like you could tell when that guy was going to be a big leaguer from the time that he
Hmm.
was 10 years old.
Yep.
It wasn't something that just happened late, and it's like there's no way. It's like
But
you could tell.
yeah, I think also like I'd be remiss to like not advocate for smaller school guys. Like there's talent across the board at all levels, and I think that people kind of like you said, like they get like penciled into like, oh my God, I gotta go D1. Oh my God, I gotta go D1. I gotta get drafted. I gotta go play in this conference, that conference. But like reality, if some scout sees you at a JUCO in the middle of Maryland when it's freezing and cold and everything else, like that's all it takes. And
Hmm.
so I think like you're like I think you're really like a good success story of like, hey, like he played 4 years at a really good top D3 and is doing amazing in life. So like there's not really like this, oh my God, I have to go D1 to be successful. Like I think that a lot of people don't look at the broad spectrum of things. And I think, yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So obviously, so you go play and you win states your junior year. So going into that senior year, are you thinking like, man, I got a shot to go play somewhere. Like I don't know where, but somewhere. Like when did it become um the not if, it's when moment? I love asking my guests that. Like because I think everybody has a if, like, oh my God, if I get a scholarship offer. And then it's like,
Hmm.
when am I gonna get a scholarship offer? So when did
Yeah.
that happen for you?
So as it relates to college, I think that was definitely after my junior year. I played for a really competitive summer team called the Mid-Atlantic Red Sox,
Okay. Yeah.
and we had probably 10 or 11 Division 1 commits like on the roster when the summer started,
Jesus.
and then like a bunch of uncommitteds.
Yeah.
So one of my best friends, Justin Meekins, like he ended up playing at Salisbury with me, but he ended up committing to Maryland after that summer, or
Okay.
even before that summer, I think. And then we had probably three or four big leaguers on that team. Now looking
Wow.
back, um,
Wow.
so that was and back to your point that I just want to make about like smaller school guys. I think the approach that I take to that is that like the cream always rises to the top,
Hmm.
and so it's like I played with a ton of good Division 3 players, a ton of good Division 2 players, a ton of good Division 1 players. Um, the summer ball circuit is great,
Hmm.
and like pro ball as a whole, or just like wherever you get the opportunity to kind of face off. Like when I was in Miami, we got to kind of do that, but like it's kind of one of those things where it's like if you think you're a good player, all right, here's your opportunity to prove it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
summer ball is the
absolutely.
best. Summer ball is the best way to do that. So it's like
Absolutely.
you know, I can listen to kids all day talk about like how good they are,
Hmm.
or how they just didn't get an opportunity to go D1 or whatever. It's like, I see really gritty grinder type players, especially when I was coaching summer ball and just like seeing it from an outsider's perspective, like guys that are hungry
Hmm.
and guys that didn't get that opportunity and they come and dominate summer leagues and then they have the opportunity to go and play professionally
Hmm.
somewhere. And then I see Division 1 guys that get comfortable.
Are just
And
lackadaisical.
right, but you also have to understand that like there's some Division 1 guys that are like they're there for a
They're
reason. And
dudes.
so like if
Yeah,
you
they're
if you took
dudes.
the summation of what like a Division 1, let's just say shortstop is, and the summation of what like a Division 3 or NAIA shortstop is, like I think that gap's a lot bigger than we really think it is
Yeah.
because there are certain things like when you go top 25,
You
top
can't
25.
teach. That you can't teach.
Like when we were a top 25, we were a top 10 team pretty much every year that I was at Salisbury.
Hmm.
We were not rolling out a weekend rotation where everybody's sitting 95 plus. We did
Yeah.
not have a bullpen of back end arms that could, pull 98 to 100 out of their back pocket.
Hmm.
The top 10 teams at the Division 1 level
They
can
can
do
do
that
that.
now and they could do that back when I was still playing.
Yeah,
It just probably
absolutely.
wasn't as publicized as it is now with social media getting bigger and just the
Hmm.
sport getting bigger and more exposure and
Yeah.
the draft shortening and the
Hmm.
the margin getting a lot closer.
Hmm.
So,
Because you go from 40 rounds where you have like NAI guys, D3 guys getting their shot at
mhm.
those back end rounds to where it's 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Like the window gets smaller and everything just kind of clumps together, and you're like, I was really
Yeah.
good for D3. What do I do now? Like, do I
Right.
go play any ball? Do I go play overseas? Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I wanted to ask. I love talking to guys from like cold weather states and asking y'all like, did you ever feel like a slight like being from Maryland and competing against these guys from Florida and Georgia? Because there's kind of this bias, at least in my view, where like northern guys get kind of sly. They're like, oh yeah, he's from Maryland or he's from Boston or wherever, and they only play 6 months out of the year or whatever. Did you ever feel like a slight when you were going through high school?
Definitely not. And I might be in the minority there, but again, I think and maybe my mind did change at some point, and so like
Hmm.
I can't think back to when I was 17, like what my thought process was.
Yeah.
But now I think a lot of the guys that I work with directly, or the people that I talk to, or the ones that I think just have their head on straight and have like
Hmm.
kind of the right approach to it. It's like, when you're 17, you probably don't have the ability to relocate yourself to a warm weather
Yeah.
state, you
Absolutely.
know?
Unless
So it's like,
unless you're unless you're Dominican and or need an agent, they're not going to relocate it for you. Sorry to interrupt you.
sure, no, you're good. But yeah, I mean, like, you got two choices. It's like you can make the best of it, or
Hmm.
you can complain about it and nothing changes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, the Florida guys can be outside 12 months a year. They can long toss. They don't have
Hmm.
to worry about cold weather, whatever. I
Hmm.
do think that there's a little bit of country club syndrome that comes with that.
Dude,
And
absolutely.
mhm,
Absolutely. There's country club syndrome in baseball.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
First guest to say that.
But Justin, who I actually talked about on the last podcast I was a guest on, Justin Lazaro, who's the pitching coach at Cal State Bakersfield now, good friend
Hmm.
of mine.
Yeah.
He made a post a while ago. He's from rural Ohio. Like
Hmm.
rural Ohio guys, I don't
There's
want to be on
grit.
anyone's bad side
There's
from rural
grit.
Ohio. Like every
There's
rural Ohio
grit.
guy that I know is just a grinder, grimy, like nose to the grindstone, foot in the dirt, like let's
Hmm.
go. And so I love those guys. And like Pittsburgh, Baltimore, like that
Hmm.
sort of like
Yeah.
pipeline, like the B&O
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
railroad. I love that shit. And I love like that being kind of like part of my identity. But he made a post a while ago about like country club problems. And it's like, if you're in a facility and things aren't going your way, it's like look up. Like look at what's around you. Look at all the tech.
Hmm.
Look at all the data. Like you have nobody
Yeah.
but to blame but yourself.
Hmm.
You have all the resources at your fingertips. And so like that's your indicator to where it's like why not maximize the opportunity? Or, if you live in a warm weather state,
Hmm.
or if you got a
If you
if you
if you
got
have
a roof over
space,
your head, if you got food, yeah, if
you
you
have
got space,
space.
if you don't have snow on the ground, like these are the types of things that I think people overlook.
Hmm.
And the brain tricks you. Like I was doing it
Yeah.
today when I wanted to go outside and throw and work out, and I'm like, oh, but it's cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like the bitch part of my brain being like, dude, 2 months
Grow up.
ago, yeah, 2 months ago, it was 17 degrees outside and there was frost on the turf
Hmm.
and you were like bear crawling on it.
And
Like
uh, and
you
and
soften
to,
up that quickly?
yeah, and to your
Um,
and to your point, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
I think that too many people in the United States don't look at the Dominicans and Venezuelans and see like, hey, like these guys are playing the game because they need to and they have to in order for their families to get out of poverty. And I think too many of us, they get caught up in the gear, and I hate to sound like an old man shouting at clouds, but it's like it's true. Like if you go over there and you talk to these guys, like they're eating rice and beans every day as their only meal, and if they don't get signed at 17, they're cutting hair at the barbershop for $1 or $5. And I think that so many people in the game get lost in that. Um, so yeah, so to your point, yeah, there is country club syndrome in baseball, and I think to a degree it's because of the cost. I think because of the cost, and people just get kind of comfortable, and they pay for that they're not really having to pay for things on their own when they're younger, and then they get out into the real world. They're like, oh my God, baseball costs a lot of money to play.
Mhm.
Um, and I think like to your point, it just kind of is guys getting comfortable.
For
So
sure, for
yeah.
sure. Um, they're sp- and this is probably going to sound hypocritical, but it's like, yeah, there is a business side behind this thing,
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
um, like, I think that if you can provide guys with the tools and resources
Hmm.
to help them get to where they want to go, I mean, you should be able to provide a premium cost that
Oh
they can
yeah,
either elect to
absolutely.
pay for or not. And then, if they do want to partake in that,
Hmm.
at that point, effectively, it's all on them because, like, you've shown them what they need to do and where the
Hmm.
opportunities are. And if they elect to not put in the work,
Hmm.
that is
It's on
more a
them.
reflection on them than it is on you.
That's on them
My mindset is like, you're not going to pull it out of somebody. It's
because
like,
you're giving them the tools and they're the
mhm,
engine. And if they don't want to fix it, they're gonna end up breaking down on the side of the road.
sure.
But
Like,
anyway,
you,
back to your personal journey. So you go and play summer ball, and you know, are you sitting there like, man, like I want to go D2. I don't want to go D3. Like, did that doubt ever creep into your mind, or was it like, okay, I'm kind of cool to go in D3. Like, it is what it is.
mhm. So lucky for me in Maryland, we at the time did not have any D2s. Frostburg is now a D2. At the
Okay,
time, they were D3. So it was either D3, D1, or JUCO in Maryland.
okay.
Hartford's a good JUCO in Maryland. I actually didn't want to explore junior college at all. I was like, I want to go to a
What?
4 year. Yeah,
That's
I was like, I
crazy.
want to go to a 4 year. I don't know why. I don't. Maybe I just wasn't educated on
Hmm.
like the level of JUCO baseball or like
JUCO
the
baseball.
opportunities that would have been ahead of me because frankly, I did develop a lot in my first 2 years of college.
Yeah.
And so looking back, it's like if I knew what I know now back then, maybe I explored the JUCO route, spend a year, 2 years there, and then
Hmm.
who knows what
Then go
happens.
somewhere. Yeah.
Don't want to look back on it too much, but yeah, I mean Salisbury had a winning program, and
Hmm.
I just had conversations with my family and extended family, friends, and they were just like, it looks like the program's pretty good, and I think the thing it really came down to was like talking to my father, and he was just like, you can be in upstate New York, and he's from up there, so he gets it. And it's like
Oh, okay.
you'll have snow on the ground 8, 9 months out of the year.
Hmm.
It'll be cold. It'll be gray. It's a thousand,
Depressing place.
1,500. To a certain degree, you got that grit factor, right? It's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
1,500 students versus a bigger campus, really good sports teams. Like, sports at any campus elevates just the
Hmm.
experience.
Hmm.
Um, really good calf, really good living
There you go.
scenario, close to home, but they win games. Losing sucks. I played
Losing
on losing
does.
teams. I played on losing teams in summer ball. I played on losing teams growing up.
Hmm.
And that was the one thing I always came back to. It was like, things were a lot better when you win.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And losing sucks. I hate losing. Some people are okay with going to a school where they lose 40 games a year and getting their teeth
Getting there.
kicked in
Yeah.
every weekend. And that was just
Jesus.
like I was like, if I did elect to do that or have that be my experience, I don't think I would have stayed at that school very long.
Oh
And
wow.
I think that's why a lot of guys flock to Salisbury. That's a good I don't know what you would call that, but we're the
Self
Seagulls, so
promo.
Seagulls
Self
flock,
promo,
you know.
yeah. A good
Yeah.
segue. There you go.
Yeah. So
But that's awesome, dude. So
I don't
you
know
go
if
to
that answered your question, but hopefully it did.
yeah. It
Okay.
absolutely did. And
Yeah.
again, I can edit anything. So if you want to
Sure.
scream and shout and go take down the subway painting that you have, that's fine.
Not while my
Um,
dog's sleeping, but
so you get to Salisbury. When did your okay, I'm in college moment hit? Because I feel like everybody that plays baseball or any collegiate sport has that moment where they get their teeth kicked in or they have an injury or something like that. Like it's kind of like, hey, I'm at a different place at a different level. Like when was that for you?
I went hitless my first fall.
Jesus.
That was tough. Yeah, like I went like 0 for 31 or 0 for 32. Yeah.
Holy crap.
I think the only thing that kept me on the roster was I improved my fielding percentage. We tracked all defensive metrics. And so
Okay.
like
Yeah.
I think I improved my fielding percentage by like 75 points, which is good,
Jesus.
you know, going
Yeah.
from like
Yeah. Yeah.
925 to 980, whatever. I forget
Yeah.
what it was. Um only K'd like 2 or 3 times. But I was making good contact. And
There
it
you go.
literally was just like the
Just
worst
hitting it
stretch
at
of luck.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, like the worst stretch of luck in my career. Um, After like the off season, you know, I
Hmm.
was hitting balls in the gaps and like guys were running it down. So there was a certain element to like, okay, like these guys are faster, you know, like fly
Guys are
balls that
bigger
normally would have dropped in high school.
or
These
not
guys are
dropping
catching
out.
them, you
Yeah.
know, like balls that you think are going to find a hole. Guys
So
can
the
like dive or get to it a little bit quicker. And
so
so,
the so the physical factor was a big one for you, where you were just like, man, like these dudes are growing men.
yeah, and
Like,
I think that's part of the reason why I got so passionate about like S&C and development in the first place because I went from the my senior or I'm sorry, my entire high school career only hitting 2 home runs, and they were both my junior year.
yeah.
And then my senior year, I was told I had to get faster and lose some weight, so I was already
What?
like 185 pounds. Yeah, crazy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe part of that was also like we had senior week where like everyone goes to the beach, and I wanted to look good, so you
Okay.
know whatever.
There you go.
Not focused on the right goals, obviously. It's a good lesson for any young kids. Be very direct with what your goals are. But anyway, not to get too sidetracked. So 2 home runs my entire high school career to then
Hmm.
my freshman year hitting five,
Okay.
which is a big jump in a 40
Yeah,
game
yeah, yeah,
season.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, Being able to hit balls out in BP was never able to do that. Just like throwing harder, just like feeling more physically full,
Yeah.
you know, you know, I started growing facial hair and I
So
gained,
you
I
started hitting
think I went from
puberty. You
yeah, right.
started
Like
hitting puberty
college
at a young
puberty, you
age.
know, like
Okay.
where the Keystone lights start to kick in, you actually get some hair on your chest.
Yeah.
Like that's like
Yeah.
I you
Yeah.
know, I don't know the science behind it, but like, you know, when you get around a bunch of 18 to 21-year-old people who are experiencing life on their own for the first time,
Hmm.
you know, that's where you grow up. And I think that there is definitely a biological stimulus that kind of happens with that to where it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you gotta go out and socialize and interact with you know other people and form friendships and
Hmm.
you know find relationships with the opposite sex if you're into that sort of thing, you know, like there's a lot of things that you have to learn how to do on your own.
Yeah.
And I gained, you know, 30 pounds of mass, not all of it usable,
Good. Yeah.
but like, you know, I got a hell of a lot stronger. um and that was like really kind of like where I became, I think, a man, and like, you know,
Okay.
really like
Cool.
understood like the gap between like college high school or like high school college
Hmm.
college pro, because you get exposed to more of those guys when you do
Yeah.
go play summer ball or whatever. So
Yeah. I
um
think I
so
think
yeah.
a lot of people have that moment, and I think a lot of kids or a lot of people in playing collegiate sports, regardless of what it is, it happens like in that first fall when you show up and you're going to all these workouts and stuff, and you're like, man, dude, I can't keep up. At least for me, that's how it was. And I was like, I was showing up to weights and stuff at like in the morning, and I'm like, what I look nothing like these people. I'm looking around and I'm like, I can't compete with dude over there lifting like deadlifting 450 on the dang trap bar, and then he's going and he's benching 185 15 times. Like he's a football player, and I'm
Mhm.
over there like string bean, like just trying to get up 155. And I mean, it's crazy the amount of physical separation that happens when you go from high school to college. So you get to Salisbury, man. What was your favorite moment from playing at Salisbury during your 4 year career?
That's a really good question. There's so many, Um, we had this incredible game my junior year. It was our first year on our new stadium.
It's
And
like
this is,
flex. Y'all had a stadium as a Division 3 school.
yeah, well, you should have seen the field we had before. It was half AstroTurf, half Bermuda grass. And
Oh
it
my
was,
God.
I didn't
Oh
even go there
no.
on my recruiting visit because they didn't take me there. They didn't want to show me.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that I like didn't even see the field before I committed. They were just like culture winning program,
We
our head
win.
coach won a World Series, like a real World
Mhm.
Series, not
Yeah.
like a Division 3 one, like, like come and play for us. But we played Mary Wash, their school in Virginia, and it was the second game of a doubleheader. It was
Yeah.
like, we thought we were gonna kick the shit out of them twice,
Hmm.
because we were just a good team, and we definitely had a little cockiness to us, as I
Hmm.
think you should have as a good team to a certain extent. We played a pretty close game the first game. The second game, I think they took probably like a 12-run lead on us
Hmm.
into like the sixth or seventh inning.
Hmm.
And we were like, damn. Because
Damn.
like we were neck and neck with CNU to like take the conference and get like
Hmm.
first overall seed in the playoffs. And this was like into April, May, so like late into the season.
Hmm.
And I think that night we had our formal too, or like we were going to
Ooh,
a
okay.
formal somewhere. So
Yeah.
like, we're building up. We're playing 2 9s too. I don't know
Ooh.
how we would go out after those.
Holy
Like
crap.
we're at the field from 9 a.m. until basically 5 or 6 p.m. at night. Like it's a full day of
Jesus.
ball.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But anyway, again, not to get too sidetracked. So we end up coming back from 12 down with 3 innings left to play.
Oh my
And
God.
we sparaged 9 outs to score 12 runs somehow.
Holy
I
crap.
wish I could go back and find the video, but it was like it was nothing big. I think there might have been like a grand slam in there, but it was just like, little bleeder, bunt,
Hmm.
knock, they make an
Yeah.
error,
Yeah.
blooper, you know, guys coming in that, pitchers like extending out,
There you
throwing
go.
3 4 5 innings of relief, stealing bags, like taking the extra bag, like screaming at the dugout. We're talking shit
Hmm.
back and
There you
forth. And
go.
like, I just remember like they had their stud in to like try and like just close it out. He
Close
was
it.
supposed to start the next week. And Will Gutekunst, who's a good friend of mine, he was one of our second basemen. We had a runner on second. It was the winning run. I think he balked in the tying run,
Oh my God.
and then the winning run got to second, and he hit the most gorgeous backside liner past the second baseman. We score. Guy throws his hat. Their head coach is about to have an aneurysm. Like, and then we go
That's
out, we
awesome.
party afterwards, and that
That's
was like.
awesome.
But again,
True,
it's like you,
true
you think of that
D3.
small, yeah, you think of like that small snippet moment of time, but like,
Yeah.
and this is so cliche, but it's like the game was fun, but that's like,
It's like a
that's a
small
blur.
part. It's
The
a
fun
small
stuff
part.
that we remember is like,
Is
where
afterwards.
we went to eat afterwards, like what song we were playing in the locker room when we're all
Hmm.
shouting, like, where the formal was, like,
Yeah, there you go.
like what we did the next day, like, it's stuff like that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I could go on and on and on. So,
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome, dude.
yeah.
That's what the pod's about, man. I don't really
Yeah.
care about like if you want to go on and on, that's fine, dude. I mean, I have the pro plan
Don't
for a
tempt me,
reason.
bro. I'll invite my boys onto here and we'll just start chatting.
So anyway, so obviously, so you're playing at Salisbury and you play all 4 years there. Are you hearing anything from scouts or are you hearing any sort of thing? Or are you just like, man, I came here to ball, get a degree, and get out, and then start my life?
Yeah, it was always an aspiration of mine to play pro ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I went into college with that mentality of, my dad was always one of my biggest supporters, and he would always just say, like, just put your head down and work and just see what
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Yeah.
Um, and so I went in more with that mindset to where it's like, I'm going to try and win a national championship. That was the goal. It was never like play pro ball.
Yeah.
Um, because it was just like we want to win. It was never like
Mm-hmm.
you play on some of the losing teams, you got more of the individuals,
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, so I did that, and I had a good first couple years. I got invited down to Miami to participate in a home run derby at the Marlins Stadium.
Awesome.
That was kind of like my first rumblings of like exposure into like scouts, and there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of scouts there, and there was advisors there and cross checkers and like people just kind of like
All
exchanging
the
business cards
suits.
and phone numbers, and
All
yeah, it
the
was just like
suits are there.
yeah, and um so that was cool. That was prior to my junior year, and then end up going and having like a really good junior year, and got invited to a couple pre-draft workouts.
Awesome.
I thought the Pirates were going to take me. I was like sold on the Pirates, like the
That's
whole
it.
word. The cross checker was a great guy.
Yeah.
We're talking on the phone like once a week. And that didn't end up happening.
Yeah.
And so I went into my senior year with some goals physically, and then like, what I wanted to accomplish personally. And then it was pretty much just like getting into my own head about it.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking that, oh, if this doesn't happen, I'm not going to get drafted, or if I don't do
Mm-hmm.
this, I'm not going to get drafted. And this is what I've worked for my whole life. And it's just like you psych yourself out about it. When in reality, I probably would have been better off just being like, all right, screw it. Like, you know, I'm going to go and try and win us a national championship, because that
Yeah.
was my mentality when we were playing well. And when I was playing well, it was like, we are going to do something cool. But as soon as I took the focus and directed it just like solely on
Towards
myself,
you. Yeah.
it's like
You're just like,
that
ah,
was the base.
double myself up.
That was baseball Jesus being like, "Hey, you need a little dosage of humble pie here, and you got to
Yeah.
get back to
There you
figuring
go.
out how you can help
Because
your team win."
because at least in my uh very limited experience being around pro guys, um, a lot of them are like, yeah, dude, it just kind of happened. Like I worked really hard and grinded and did what I was supposed to do. I never really said like, oh, I'm going to lead the country in,
Hmm.
ERA or innings or whatever. And a lot of these, at least in my experience, a lot of these high school kids, like they have such lofty goals for themselves, and that's great. But like your focus shouldn't be like, hey, I'm going to go get drafted in the second round. It's like, okay, like that's cool. You got drafted in high school, but like nobody cares. Like because when
Hmm.
you get to college, nobody cares. And
Yeah.
everybody hates the guy who talks about his high school career and brings up, winning states and, and all this stuff, and he can't hang the jersey up. So I think that's a great point you made in like you just wanted to help your team out. And I think at least nowadays in college sports and things like that with the NIL and being paid to play at least at the higher levels, um, it's kind of created a little bit of a weird dynamic. And it's kind of a weird deal. Like you literally have kids that are choosing schools off how much they can get paid, which is nuts to me.
Hmm.
At least
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, I'm like, you're gonna pay this 18-year-old $20 million. I hope he's got a good financial guy.
Yeah.
Lord. So anyway, so you get done playing in college. You go through your junior and your senior year. Oh, sorry. The junior and senior year. Are you thinking like, man, like I'm just gonna go get a job, or are you still hearing from some teams, or what's that like?
Absolutely was not thinking that. I was like, no, I'm still playing. Like
Oh, okay.
I am going to do whatever it takes to keep baseball as a part of my life for as long
Yeah.
as I can.
Hmm.
If that means as a player, um, great. If it
Yeah.
means I'm broadcasting or doing the journalism stuff, which is kind of what I studied, and that was like my
Hmm.
side quest when I was
Awesome.
playing. Um, Great, cool, awesome. Whichever
Hmm.
one happens first, or whichever one kind of like uh, manifests itself earlier than the other.
Awesome.
And neither really ended up happening. So pursued the pro ball thing for a while.
Hmm.
Probably. I'd say about a year. I
Okay.
pursued it and had some opportunities to go play indie ball and went to another couple like post draft workouts for like free agent signings.
Hmm.
And just nothing came to when you're
Okay.
a American 6'2", 6'8", running slightly above average power, average arm strength, relatively to professional ball metrics
Yeah.
which is what I realized at the time. Um, you're not a commodity. It's
Yeah.
just like, we're not signing the 23-year-old. We got 18-year-olds that can do this, brother.
Hmm.
And I was like, all right,
Yeah.
that's your dose of humble pie right there. But yeah, so once I realized that like playing a position wasn't an option, because there
Hmm.
are tools involved.
Absolutely.
Um, there's tools involved with every position. I don't know why I made that point, but like I realized that I did hit 91 as a pitcher
Hmm.
as a two-way in college. So I was like, well, okay, if I can pop a number on a gun, I'm seeing guys on
Let's
Twitter,
see
on
where this
Instagram get
goes.
signed because of one
Yeah.
bullpen. So like,
Let's
why
see what
can't I do that?
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's 12 guys in the bullpen. There's 5 guys that are infielders on a roster. So
Hmm.
it's like odds game. Um, and so I started to train as a pitcher with one of the Catholic guys that I went to high
Hmm.
school with that I mentioned earlier. And so we trained together remotely with a coach
Oh
for
wow.
about 6 or 7 months.
Okay.
And
Cool.
then he had a shoulder strain, and COVID actually hit right around that time. So basically, like all of our plans kind of imploded,
Wow.
and that was kind of like the end of my hard pursuit, or like my like
So
sprint
like
pursuit.
your tunnel vision of, hey, I'm gonna play professional baseball. I'm gonna get paid
Right.
to play.
Right. That was kind of like the period to where I was like, well, is this on hold? Like, am I going to pursue something else? Like, what am I
Hmm.
going to do? So it's just like, that was kind of a lull period.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, that was my mentality coming out of school, was like, I'm not done. I'm not going out like this, hitting
Yeah.
50 points above my weight
Hmm.
and, 3 bombs. I did hit a home run my last college at bat. That was kind of
Oh,
cool.
that's
But
sick.
when you have 200 at bats, you only get 3 bombs. It's like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not
Numbers
great.
game. Numbers game.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, I still have more left to prove and to put forth. And so I pursued it for a little bit, and then it kind of led into the next chapter of all this.
Yeah,
So
yeah, awesome. So let's dig into that next chapter. So obviously, if everybody goes and takes a look at your Instagram, which I will link in the description of the YouTube and the Spotify and the
hell yeah.
Apple, all the things, they will see you have a large following for just some Division 3 or former Division 3 baseball player. When did social media become a thing for you, and when did you decide, hey, this is what I'm gonna do?
So probably late 2023, I really started posting a lot.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 2022, 2022.
Okay.
Um, so I was basically unemployed for most of that year.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and
No money
so
coming in.
no money coming in. I was sweeping gym floors. I was working the desk job at a gym. A mentor of mine actually now, who's like a entrepreneur, he owns a bunch of gyms and a PT office. Sorry. He I was like, I just went to him when I moved back to Maryland, and I was like, look, I need something. Just like, give me something to fill hours so I'm not just like sitting alone with my thoughts all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was like, all right, you can work the front desk, hours or whatever, 4 a.m. to 2,
Oh my
or you can
God.
like work the graveyard shift. I don't think I
Holy
worked any of
crap.
those, but yeah, some of those were rough.
Jesus.
Sweeping floors when you're not at the desk and just like answering phones and doing whatever. But $13 an hour. It's like a little
Yeah.
bit better than minimum wage. It's not that terrible, but it's not
Hmm.
great.
Yeah.
Um, and then I had a friend who was like, you should just make a training Instagram, because I was still training. That was like my outlet. That was like my time to where I just didn't have to think about anything. And so I made this training Instagram, just started like posting stuff, like posting my own training to hold myself accountable. But
Hmm.
then I started posting like some educational stuff,
Yeah.
um, and just like stuff that I'd picked up over the years. And people started following it. And then it got to the point in late 2023 to where I was like, all right, I'm at rock bottom. I don't really know what to do. do I pursue this like online coaching space thing,
Mhm.
or do I just go and like get a different job, or just like,
Mhm.
I didn't know what to do. And so I was
Yeah.
like, this seems like the only option that gives me what I want, which I think is freedom, which
Yeah.
is the ability to like create content and just like use my personality and use all the different like kind of weird skill sets that I picked up over the years
Mhm.
and try and create it, try and turn it into something.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's what I did, and had like probably 200, 300 followers on like all my
Oh my
platforms. Like,
God.
when I first started, and I just started like
Just
pumping out
cranking it.
stuff that I thought was interesting and people
Yeah.
liked it and they followed me. And so, I still don't think that I have like a huge following
Mhm.
comparatively, but you're always going to compare it to the next guy and the next
You're
guy and the
being
next guy.
very humble. You're being very humble as somebody who only has 3,000 followers. You're being no, I'm kidding. But honestly, like it's nice to see like somebody that has kind of like a rags to riches story in the content game because I think so many people psych themselves out about it. They're like, "Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I can't do it."
Hmm.
I'm like, "Dude, you have a $1,500 phone right here.
Yeah.
Use use Google. Use the
Yeah.
internet."
Yeah.
There's so many free resources out there. But do you honestly enjoy educating people, or are you just like, hey, I'm doing this for myself?
That's a great question. There are days certainly to where I'm like, I have to get something out,
Yeah,
like I gotta put something out. Like I
yeah,
gotta, I gotta do this.
I got to.
I tie it back to like what my goals are ultimately, that certainly helps, but you're not gonna, it's just like playing. You're not gonna feel 100% every single
Hmm.
day. There's not going to be the days to where you wake up inspired and you wake up passionate about what you're doing.
Hmm.
I'm on full disclosure. I'm on 3 days no nicotine right now after
Yeah,
cycling it back in.
yeah,
And tough, man.
yeah.
It's
I
tough to
bet.
sit down
I
and
bet,
work,
dude. I bet.
Um,
I
and
bet
so like today,
because your brain is telling yourself like, oh my God, I need it. Oh my God, I need it. Oh my God, I need
yeah,
it.
can't
And I
work
think,
without it. Can't
yeah,
hop on a podcast without it. But
yeah,
we're
of
here.
course.
We're still breathing. We got blood pumping. We're good. So yeah, but like, the thing that I really enjoy, and I think the thing that I pride myself on is just like being real and like letting my personality kind of work through the content,
Hmm.
because I try to just put out things that make it seem as though I can be approachable and you could just have a conversation with me, which is why I do the free mechanical analysis, because like
Yeah,
I don't want to just have somebody DM me and be like, "Can you help me fix this?" And I'm just like, "Sign up for program." You
yeah.
know,
That's
it's like I
horrible.
still want to vet to even see if it would make sense, if it works for you, if you even like me, if I even like you.
Yeah.
You know, um,
It's
I'm just
complete eyewash, by the way. Anybody that does that, it says, "Oh yeah," like let's say I'm a high school kid and I'm going to a coach and they're and I'm like, "Hey, like I want to do a remote training with you," and then you spit back some Chat GPT generated AI thing, like
yeah,
you're not doing that service to that person. Like
yeah,
at the end of the day, they're just trying to get help and they're trying to get coaching.
yeah.
Um, so, what are you, I would be remiss if I didn't ask. What are your plans for the new year? Obviously, it is 2025. As far as content, baseball, physical, mental. Do you have any resolutions, like they say, or are you just trying to take it one day at a time?
Yeah, I think the biggest goal right now, I'm back into training. Get my shoulder 100% healthy. Um, I'm still kind of working on this like 95 at 185
Yeah,
thing, but I
by
think
the
I'm going to be so much lower than that. Like I think I'm probably going to be somewhere in like the 175 to
Mhm.
170 range, because I'm also trying to be like
Yeah.
sub 10% body fat.
By the way, guys, this guy fractured his shoulder trying to do a backflip. Healed it himself. I I kid you not, I'm sitting there tapping through my Instagram stories. I'm like, this dude is insane. He just fractured his shoulder and is now trying to rehab everything by himself, which me being the son of a doctor, I'm like, what? But
Yeah,
the body heals itself.
body heals. Shout out Brady, Dak, for running my rehab, and Brian Hunter. They both helped a ton. So
That's awesome.
I can't take full credit.
Okay, cool.
They definitely helped a ton. But yeah, goals, cut down, look good for the beach.
Yeah, there you go.
I grew up a fat kid, so like, if
Okay.
somebody was like doing a psychoanalysis on myself, it'd be like, yeah, you grew up fat. He wants to be skinny, he wants to be ripped. That's like where most people that get into really good freaking shape come from, is like a place of
Yeah.
shame. So obviously,
So
like, yeah.
I'd be remiss to ask, and let me know if this is too personal or not. Was baseball kind of like a therapy outlet for you, as far as like you seeing yourself? Because I know for me,
Mm-hmm.
baseball has always been kind of therapeutic to me. To go out and throw a baseball or hit a baseball or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Has it always been an outlet for you?
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, like, you can get called fat on the playground, but like if somebody calls you fat on the baseball field, you park one 450 on them. It's like, who's
There you
laughing
go.
now? Or
There
you
you
strike them
go.
out, or you make a diving play. It's like there's so
That's
many
sick.
examples. Like I'm sure a lot of the I always think of like Jake Berger, like one of my buddies plays for the Marlins. Like Jake Berger was like one of their best hitters last
Yeah.
year. Or
Yeah.
I'm sure Rowdy Tellez,
Yeah. Yeah.
people called
Yeah.
him fat. I'm sure,
Yeah.
people called whoever, like a lot of those guys probably grew up chubby.
Billy Butler.
Billy Butler, right? It's like, nobody cares. Like, are you good? Can you help the team win? Great. We
Hmm.
love you. We
Yeah,
love you. The
of
city is
course.
going to sing your praises. You
Yeah,
look at that video of Clayton Kershaw after the World
yeah.
Series.
He looks fat, but
Yeah, like that
he's
guy.
awesome.
Yeah, he's great,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of evened the playing field. But
Okay.
the more I learned about like development and health and nutrition, like these are all things like, my family lineage hasn't probably been like the most picturesque
Healthiest.
timeline of
Yeah.
health,
Yeah.
for a lot of different factors. And so that propelled me into like figuring out like, okay, when I was struggling a little bit mentally, how can I get out of the rut?
Yeah.
Or if I'm not looking the way that I want to, how can I improve the way that I appear to the
Hmm.
outside world? Or how can I improve the way that I feel physically, or the
Yeah.
way that my brain works, or all of these things? So
Hmm.
it's all kind of tied together into that. But yeah, I mean, baseball, 100%. Like, it's still a therapy for me. If I can go out
Awesome.
and throw baseballs and, no music, no headphones, just be out there by myself,
Yeah.
I'm the happiest guy in the world.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Awesome. Way to go.
Hmm.
So I'll wrap this up, if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
Guys, if you haven't, check out all the links in the description. I will include all of Jack's links, his YouTube channel, his Instagram, everything, all the links. You guys can buy a shirt. You guys can buy a new Be Sexy shirt.
Hell yeah. Good
You can get
plug.
it,
Appreciate you.
you can get it organic or non-organic.
Yeah.
It is your choice. It
Yeah.
is your choice. This is America. You have free will, and this is the internet. You have freedom of choice. But thank you, Jack. Thank you for joining me on the pod. I
Of
will
course.
hit this record button, and we can go into the post show.
Awesome.